You are running with the Devils, and it's a victory show. The Devils win again, a second straight Pac-12 win. They move to 4-1 on the season. I'm the Rhino, Ryan Knowles. Here with me, as always, my co-host, Big John Caldwell. And Big John, oh, so great to see you. I'm so glad I made the trek out to Pasadena for the game this past Saturday night. The Devils beat up the Bruins 42-23 in Pasadena. And, oh, man, it was a great showing by our boys on Saturday night. Really great to see them come out and play as well as they did, especially in the second half, shutting out that high-powered Bruins offense. And just so many things to talk about. We're going to get to it all here on Running with the Devils. Of course, we will talk about this coming Friday's matchup with the Stanford Cardinal. But of course, first and foremost, we got to recap this past week's victory. The Devils moved to 4-1 on the season, like I said, 2-0 in the Pac-12, and they are back in the top 25, number 22 national ranking. John, so great, so many great things to talk about on the show.
The fact that they've got their mojo, they never lost their cool. They did not lose their composure. They matched them shot for shot. They just had this look about them like, whatever you're going to throw at you, we got you. We got this. They were so confident. They never worried about being down. It was just, I love that mentality of resiliency that you're not going to beat us. So what? You just scored. Big deal.
Yeah. So, and again, showing up big time in the second half. Again, shutting out the Bruins and going on an 18-0 run to finish the game. So great to see. We mentioned they see. It was basically them and UCLA. It looked to be them and UCLA neck and neck for the Pac-12 South, at least on paper. And they now control their own destiny. Devils, they continue to put up victories. They should be representing the Pac-12 South in the Pac-12 championship game. We mentioned the shutout in the second half. The defense made some nice adjustments and continued to show up in the second half. And that was really, really great to see, specifically that goal line stand early in the fourth quarter that kind of helped put the game away. It was such a backbreaker with two backup linebackers in the game. I mean, Kyle Soley had just been ejected for targeting. Darian Butler was down with cramps. And elbows. Next man up. In comes Eric Gentry and Will Schaefer. And Eric Gentry made the big tackle on Dorian Thompson-Robinson on fourth down to give the ball back to the Devils. Really, really great to see those second team guys step up.
I ran that play in slow-mo back. He was in the backfield like it wasn't even slow-mo. It was like cat-like. He was back there waiting. It was really
which is funny. He doesn't even look like a linebacker. He's so tall,
but he's quick.
He's kind of lanky. He looks more like a tight end than a linebacker. And yet he goes out and he makes the most of his opportunities whenever he's in the game. And that is so great to see from a young player.
He runs great lines. Yeah, great lines, and he's cat-like.
Yeah, and then Will Schaefer, a guy who he played both ways in high school at Saguaro and Scottsdale. Wasn't really highly recruited as a linebacker. Was thought of more as a running back by some schools, but he's come in to ASU and already earned his way up to the second team. That's very, very impressive for him.
Having watched him for 4 years in high school, he has the heart. He's a lot like Connor Soley. He's just got a huge heart and a great nose for the ball. And he likes contact. So
and then balance on offense. I talked about this is one of my keys to the game last week was JD5 has got to be JD let it fly, and he did in this game. The Devils, even when they were trading score for score with UCLA, Jayden Daniels was airing it out, and that's how the Devils were able to keep pace in the second half. In the first half. In the second half, they went to the ground game very, very well. And we're able to put kind of milk the clock and put the game away on the ground, which was really great to see.
The first big ball to Jordan Porter, was that coming at you or going away from you?
That was going away from me. Okay. I was in the end zone with the other ASU.
Well, you saw the separation though. I'm sure that little skinny post he ran.
Oh yeah, he was wide open, and that was really great to see Jayden get the ball into him.
He's fast.
Yeah, that was and we saw some of that last year. He was it looked like he was the go-to receiver in some of those games that they played in 2020.
Hmm.
So, and he hadn't really, with Johnny Wilson down,
Yeah.
uh, Jordan Porter was the next man up, and he was able to make the most of his opportunities, which was really great to see.
Hmm.
And we talked about balance: 286 yards passing, 177 yards rushing, and a big reason why was Ladarius Henderson. The entire offensive line, I think, deserves credit, but the young man is only still. He seemed like he's been here 3 years now. He's still only 19 years old, and he's moved positions a few times. And he's playing. He's kind of found a home, I think, at guard.
Hmm.
And he's the Pac-12 Offensive Lineman of the Week. He was really instrumental in making that offense go.
If he keeps that up the rest of the season, he is really setting himself up for an all pack kind of performance.
Yeah, he
In that kind of,
certainly deserves it. And then we mentioned Jaden Daniels. This, to me, I think was his best, most complete game of the year. Some of the throws that he made were pro level throws.
pro level.
Absolutely. I mean, you can talk about the balls to Porter and Pearsall that went for big gains, but to me, it was right after that fourth down goal line stand in the fourth quarter, it kind of rolls out to his right while he's in the end zone and delivers a dime to Curtis Hodges, who then turns upfield for a big gain. And it was kind of just out of the reach of the defender. It was in a perfect spot for Haji to make the play. And it
dropped it in on him.
That would, to me, might have been one of the best throws I've ever seen him make. That was a big time throw at a big time situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and rightfully, he's Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week for 286 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 45 yards rushing. Really filling up the stat sheet for JD5. Really great to see.
Yeah, it was one of those teams where they were going up against good athletes. This wasn't Southern Utah on UNLV. This is another cut above athletes, and to be able to have those kind of stats, almost 70% completion. JD5 is making really nice gains from week to week. I thought, he's still.
And I called him last week against Colorado. The last game against Colorado, his best game of the year.
Right. And to top
that,
out
there and supersedes it this week against UCLA.
That's
really great to see.
That's the mark of a player who's growing. The thing
it's better every week, definitely.
If I have to have any criticism at all, it's still going to be that pocket. His first inclination is to run out of it, and I still think there's room. If you go back and watch it at the Pac-12 game in 60 minutes, there's plenty of room for him to step up and deliver balls too. And I know they're probably talking to him about that because there's obviously a lot more reads when you run out when you're bailing out to your right all the time. Half the field is limited in terms of where you can go. And we talked about this in high school. That's the kind of play that players make, right? But at this level, as you get better and better teams, there's going to be a good edge rusher coming at you where you're not going to have that opportunity. So stepping up is going to be a big part of it. The next thing I'm going to look for in his improvement. But no, very, very well deserved. I thought he deserved Offensive Player of the Week. And what I really liked is he was able to shut up the UCLA quarterback afterwards, and he didn't have much to say.
Yeah, very true. And a big game also from wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, which was really great to see. We'll talk a little bit more about him in our players of the game, but definitely had an All-American caliber game with his 2 touchdown catches, and was very much a factor on offense after really struggling to get going against Colorado. He really wasn't much of a factor in the passing game. He was part of that trick play where he threw the ball back to Rachaad White and then took it 33 yards for the touchdown. But other than that, he really wasn't much of a factor in the game against the Buffaloes. But in this game, he was the go-to guy. And that leads us into our Pac-12, we'll talk about we'll get into the players of the game here in just a minute.
Sure.
But of course, Herm, talking about, hitting the big plays on offense, with Zach Hill kind of called probably his best game of the season, with everything that went on, and what they were able to do and put the points up on the scoreboard, and the resiliency, I think, is also a big factor in his team's success. They've been a second half team all year. It's not to say, and in this game, I thought they didn't really get out to a slow start. UCLA kind of got out to a fast start. They were putting points up on the board early,
3-3, yeah.
but the fact that ASU was able to keep pace
Mhm.
and not let UCLA get too far out in front, keep them within striking distance, and then take advantage when UCLA made mistakes was really great to see. I mean, the fact that that snap went over DTR's head and
Yeah.
ASU was able to recover, they turned that into points, which was great to see. So
Opportunistic, you're right.
really a lot to like out of this game, in the way that the team responded on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Like I said, we opened the show with the resiliency. You can make the case that the team we're about to play is a resilient team too.
Oh yeah.
That's been their hallmark. But I think the fact that we're it's sort of like we go out and have a really good defensive stand, and the offense comes right out and is ready to rock. And but never did I, and Herm says it right here. I felt the energy on the sideline the whole time. There was never a down moment like, God, we're beat kind of a thing. There was nothing.
And that's the mark of a veteran team too, a team with a lot of seniors, a team that has been through it all. They've had successes, they've had failures. They never get, like you said, get too high, get too low. They stay very even keel and are able to overcome pretty much whatever's thrown at them. That's the mark of a great team, a championship team. And I think that's the mentality this team has.
Well, I think Herm made the comment after the UNLV game saying, after all those penalties, that basically saying, look, you had two choices. You can either get all over these guys and yell and scream about their mistakes, or you can let them run free. And he chose to let them run free with the knowledge that the mistakes could be minimized through just technique things.
And work things out on their own.
Actually, it was the BYU game, where the 17 fouls, as he calls them, fouls occurred. But I think the play is still the special teams that's has the most improvement to make in terms of not foul, 12 men on the field, 13 men on the field, those kind of things. We'll get into that here in a little bit.
Yeah, and that's that kind of takes us into, and that was one thing that I think we both talked about, was something that this team needs to focus on. This game could have been even more one-sided if ASU doesn't commit some mistakes on special teams.
Right.
The 12 men on the field that moved the 4th and 6 up to 4th and 1, that UCLA converts. The muffed punt right at the end of the half by DJ Taylor, his decision before that to take it out from 9 yards deep. Just a lot of things that you can point to and say, hey, they don't do this, they don't do that. This game's even more of a blowout.
Yeah, it would. There's at least 7 points I counted. Where they got a touchdown rather than a field goal, and then the muffed punt that led to 3. That's at least 7 points.
Yeah, that goes back to special teams. I think you weren't too happy when you texted me. Sean Slocum needed to walk home.
That was my comment. He needs to not take the bus, and to somebody else I said, maybe as soon as they get home, turn on the lights at Sun Devil. We're going back to work.
Not the worst idea. I mean, I think they still, on Sunday when the guys who don't play, go out there and have a scrimmage. So that wasn't the worst. That wouldn't have been the worst idea. I mean, you really got to get those things together. I mean, the offense and defense looks like they're starting to get into midseason form.
Yeah.
Special teams has got to follow suit, and it starts with the coaching. Sean Slocum, I mean, he's been doing this a while. He coached in the pros, knows what it takes to be successful. I have all the faith in the world in him, but now it's got to show on the field. So hopefully we'll see it in the coming weeks. And now, as we do every week here on Running with the Devils after a win, our players of the game presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club. To support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. And for me on offense, I got to point to the running backs. They, to me, were tremendous in this game. It was so great to see Chip Trainum back out there. He was such a big factor in this game. And Rachaad White continues to have a great game. I think that the turning point of this game was that long touchdown run that he had.
He spun out.
Spun out of the tackle and then went up the sideline for the touchdown.
A little Eno in there.
Yeah, exactly. And they combined for 25 carries, 136 yards, and on the ground and 3 touchdowns. That was so great to see the running attack play as well as it did.
I think if you're on defense and you have two runners like that, it's not fun. I mean, no. You can expect that if you had one running back with all those, all those carries, it would start to wear. You start to figure it out.
And they put them both on the field at the same time.
Oh my God, it's a nightmare.
A lot of time. Yeah. And then there's no animosity or competition or ego between those two guys. Right. They're actually friends, and they just, I think they complement each other really well. I mean, we talked about when Trainum and Daniel Nagata came on to the team at the same time last year. They were going to be kind of the thunder and lightning type of deal, and then Rachaad White would kind of be the tweener who could also be kind of a Marion Grice type, be a good running back, be a good receiver out of the backfield, and he has been. But the fact that White can run through the tackles,
he's got good hands too.
Yeah, and Trainum's kind of the bruiser. He can get the tough yards. They complement each other really well. You don't really know what to expect from when you get them on the field together at the same time. But when that's one thing you got to account for. And then also when they're both on the field, they can do a lot of different things. I think the fact that they've been as versatile as they have, I think it's been a pleasant surprise.
I've watched great teams over the years in the Pac and all over the country. Marcus Dupree's, all of them, and I would rather have a team, quite frankly, instead of having the number one running back in the country, have two guys like this who could just pound you, and you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know which guy is going to hit you.
Hey, Georgia's been doing it for years, and look how many backs they put in the NFL. Look how the success they have. That to me is that's got to be the bar that ASU has got to set for itself. It can't just be one bell cow workhorse kind of guy every week in and week out. That's nice to have, but if you have multiple guys and you're able to keep your primary guy fresh, I think that benefits you even more.
And it's been proven too. If somebody gets nicked up, goes down, you have Ngata, who's going to be a star in the future. I'm really convinced.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned when Trainum went down, but our production was still solid. They still had good games running the ball after that. So, and now that he's back, pick your poison. Yeah, basically. So that was really great to see the running attack play as well as it did. Great to see Chip Trainum back out there. I think he's probably my favorite player on this team. I honestly have to say that, Chip Trainum. Yeah. And then on defense, defensive lineman Anthony Cooper. He's kind of been a backup, was kind of a
local kid.
Another next man up kind of situation with the injuries along the defensive line with Trevez Moore, Jermaine Lole, a couple other guys kind of getting nicked up. It's created opportunities for certain guys like Stanley Lambert, Joe Moore, among others. And Anthony Cooper certainly made the most of his opportunities in this game. 4 tackles, 2 sacks. Looked like he flashed to me on several occasions. He was really getting after it out there. That was really, really great to see a young man like this who's shown that he has all the potential, all the skills in the world. Yep. To be a big time playmaker.
He's got busy hands.
Put it all together and go out there and have a game like this was so awesome.
He's got a good first step, Ryan, and his hands are real busy. Doesn't let the offensive lineman lock him up. He knocks things down.
And his size too. His size is really, really impressive. I mean, he looks like Lole or DJ Davidson out there, but he's more of an edge guy, and he's got the speed of somebody kind of smaller.
Look at his lean.
He looks like a pro body out there.
Yeah, look at his lean when he's running. He's not running like this. He's running like this.
Yes, as you're supposed to as a D lineman. Yes.
He first broke through, folks, at the Sun Bowl in El Paso year before last, and really caught my eye as somebody who was disruptive. He was played in his first game really, but just was taking on big guys and just blowing them up, I thought. But so I'm really happy for him that you gave him a helmet sticker. I gave two. Pearsall obviously had an all-pack kind of day, and if you keep working on that, you might make All-American. 4 receptions, 132, 2 TDs, two big TDs, 65 and 54. I know that
he might get a nomination for the Paul Horning Award.
There you go.
For the most versatile player, because
there you go. Right.
I mean the way that the what he's done in being a factor on the trick plays,
throwing the ball.
Yeah, he's throwing the ball. Just the different ways that he can affect the game, I think it can't be understated. I mean, you gotta know where he is at all times, because he can beat you in a variety of different ways. I talked about the Colorado game where he wasn't much of a factor in catching the ball, but he finds ways to be helpful, to be effective as a team, as a teammate, and as part of the offense. And it was this, and then he'll have games like this where he's just goes out there and has some monster games through the air.
I had a chance to meet him at the Herm's radio show a couple weeks ago, and I always ask this of skill players. I always ask, "What's your vertical?" And he said 41, and my eyes lit up like, that's an athlete. That's a guy who give you lots of range, and he does. He has got a great range, and he's able to get that separation. And Jaden, I think now is in this groove with him. Where he's becoming one of his favorite targets besides Johnny and Hodges and some of the other younger players. But yeah, he's special, folks. So keep your eye on him. Kyle Soley on defense led the team. It was having a phenomenal first half and was on his way to having, I think, his best game of the season when he was ejected in the third quarter for a very questionable targeting play. Really, when the quarterback's going down like that and you can't stop to get that, they need to take that into account. That's just a ridiculous rule.
Right.
It was nothing malicious. He was just following through. But he had 5 solos, 7 assists, 12 total tackles.
And it wasn't really helmet to helmet. He kind of hit him with the shoulder.
But a hand down.
I mean, Fox's own rules analyst said he didn't think it should have been targeting.
I was texting you going,
that guy was a referee for over a decade.
Yeah, I'm texting you going, nobody here thought it was head hunting.
They got a little hosed by the refs a couple times. I mean, that touchdown that Britton Brown had, where it looked like Tyler Johnson and company kind of stuffed him at the goal line. It didn't look like he got the ball.
Tyler spun him around, right?
He didn't look like he ever got the ball over the line.
I watched it over and over. People kept saying, "Oh yeah, he got it over." I'm like, "No, I don't see it."
Yeah,
but Herm's keeping his mouth shut. He's just pointing out the obvious. We are the most penalized conference in the country, and I think it's for things like this.
And that's been an issue for years. Pac-12 refs have always, been very liberal with the flags.
Yeah.
I've never cared for them, especially when I watch other conferences play and how they'll let some stuff go that the Pac-12 won't. And you wonder why it's so hard to watch and why they're coming in fifth in the Power 5 every year for football. It's things like that kind of stick with me. But I mean, you're right about Kyle Soley. The fact that he was still able to lead the team in tackles despite being ejected in the third quarter, I think is great. He's going to miss the first half.
Yeah, that's going to hurt.
Game, which is unfortunate, but more opportunities for guys like Gentry and Schaefer, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, and I threw in an honorable mention only because I'm the special teams guy, right? But Butler obviously had a great game. Continues to have a great all-pack kind of a game.
He's player of the game from one of us.
He's playing with one arm too. That elbow, he looks like Terminator with that freaking thing on his arm right now. Yeah,
Gary Bonds maybe.
Yeah, 9 tackles, 2 for loss, and then Zane Dejas, 2 field goals, 4 extra points, 10 points, ladies and gentlemen, 10 points.
Yeah, he had a lot of family in the stands.
Yeah, big. That's great.
I mean, that's a big family, but he had a lot of family in the stands in this game, and so for him to go out there and play as well as he has, especially he's not being on the team really to start the season.
Yeah.
And for him to be making an impact the way he has thus far, just continuing to kind of be that the accurate kicker that he is, just being a little automatic inside of 40 yards with the extra points.
The 2 field goals were is
a nice boost to this team.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all working out. Everybody's playing their role here. The
Yeah,
your kickoff man's putting them real deep or out of the end zone, so they're not getting big run backs. And by the way, Stanford has a really good run back game. I think they're number 1 or 2 in the pack. So putting it out of the end zone is a real smart is really a blessing.
yeah. Logan Tyler has done a good job. I mean, some of his kicks sometimes look like they're kind of like these high wind golf shots at times. They're going one way, they're going another, just these knuckleball
Yeah,
type of kicks. But hey, that makes them tougher to field. So
yeah.
really great to see. Those are our players of the game, presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club.com, and that kind of puts a bow on the UCLA win. And now we move on to Stanford on a short week, coming in to Sun Devil Stadium on a Friday. They're going to be the national game on ESPN, and this is not your daddy's Stanford team. I mean, this is the Stanford teams that we always saw, winning the Pac-12 seemed like every year, going to the big bowl game. They were always built on two things: big physical offensive line with a running game that could just tear up the clock and wear you down, and a defense that could get off the field and force turnovers and do a lot of different things. It was fast, aggressive, and big. And this Stanford team is built a little differently, and they're really starting to put up some points on the board with their quarterback Tanner McKee has been playing extremely well. They're number 2 in scoring in the conference, number 2 in total offense, number 2 in total passing, and number 1 in red zone touchdowns.
Yeah, he had to come in after they got their
off the stat sheet, and they're putting some big points, some big numbers on the board.
Yeah.
When it comes to scoring. I mean, and it's weird because Tanner McKee, he's a redshirt freshman, but he's like 20, 21. He went on a morning mission after high school before coming to Stanford, and he is showing some serious maturity for a kid who's only been playing, college football for a couple of years. And he wasn't the week 1 starter against Kansas State. It was senior Jack West. McKee came in and has just taken over and made the position his own. 89 of 138 on the year, 1,039 yards, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's the big thing. Only him and Matt Corral in major college football are the only 2 quarterbacks with more than 10 touchdown passes and no interceptions. He's very impressive.
I'm very impressed. When I've seen him throw some balls in traffic that you shouldn't be throwing it unless you're Tom Brady. But literally,
he did make some big time throws in that.
He threads the needle.
Oregon last week, and I mean, this kid looks like he can be the real deal. I mean, you can make an argument for Keaton Slovis and Chase Nolan is having a great year for Oregon State, but this kid could be the best true passer that the ASU defense sees all year.
Right.
And, I mean, he's going to stay in the pocket, but he can get out and run a little bit. He's a decent athlete. He's got 71 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the year. And for his performance against, if you watched any of that overtime win over Oregon, he definitely earned that Pac-12 Freshman of the Week award that he got.
Sure.
And then they'll rotate Isaiah Sanders. He's pretty easy to spot. He's number 0. In the short yardage and goal line situations, they'll run by. They still have even though they have kind of a younger offensive line.
No McCaffrey,
still
Gerhardt.
Still physical, and Isaiah Sanders will definitely get in behind them.
He's little. He's a little guy, right? He's
pretty good size. He's pretty big guy. I thought at least he looked that way on TV.
Yeah, he's just built kind of squatty. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. And he'll get out and run, and he had a rushing touchdown against Oregon. He's got 2 on the year now.
Yeah.
So definitely something to game plan for. He hasn't passed all year. So if he's in the game, odds are he's running downhill. So you got to have the rushing lanes filled. And then, of course, what's Stanford without a running back? I mean, they always produce great ones. And Nathaniel Peete, I mean, he's a nice player. He really is. I was kind of impressed by him. He's not the biggest guy, but he's got some decent speed. He runs big. He's kind of a one cut and go type of back. He's having a nice year so far. 42 carries, 274 yards, 2 touchdowns. And that average is very, very impressive, averaging almost 7 yards a carry. He's a nice looking player. And of course, that the Peete family putting guys in Stanford. What else is new, right?
Yeah, he's from Yep.
Yeah.
This one's from Missouri, and but yeah, he's 5'10", 195, but he's tough to bring down.
Like I said, runs big.
Runs big,
got
right?
he's got a little shiftiness to him, but he'll basically do a one cut and go type of guy. He will get east west a little bit, but he's got the speed to do it. So he's a very, very solid back. Definitely someone that you need to watch out
Mhm.
for. And then they'll mix the other back, Austin Jones, in. He's more of a shifty. I don't want to call him a water bug, but because he's a decent sized kid. He can run over some guys. 35 carries, 148 yards on the season. They'll definitely rotate the two in and out, and they've got a nice 1-2 punch with these two kids.
Yeah, he's 5'10", 190.
Yeah.
So he would not a
But
classic
a different style runner than Pete. I think he's
That's
not
correct.
quite the athlete that Pete is,
Hmm.
but he can still, kind of he'll run through the tackles a little bit more.
Hmm.
Just somebody who just goes out there. He's kind of a meat and potatoes type of guy who'll go out there and
Sure.
can get you the tough yards. And then where Stanford's really, as we mentioned, Stanford's really shined this year is in the passing game.
Right.
And a big reason why has been their, this trio of receivers that they have. Elijah Higgins has been the go-to guy. He's the leading receiver, 22 catches, 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, and had the big one at the end of regulation against Oregon to send the game into overtime.
In overtime, right.
And then Bryson Tremaine was kind of the go-to guy. He had 5 touchdowns on the year, 20 receptions, 245 yards, but he suffered a bad leg injury.
Oh,
It was actually his ankle. It was like
Oh.
in the second quarter against Oregon. It looks like he's going to be down for a while. So I don't. He's probably not going to play in this game, especially if you believe the picture where his foot's pointing the wrong direction. Really gruesome stuff. Hate to see that from a young man. But he was really playing very, very well in the first half against Oregon. Was kind of the go-to guy for them.
Right.
But then they started spreading the ball around, and John Humphreys is another kid who's
Right.
played very well in this offense. He's another guy that McKee will look for out there.
In the fourth quarter and overtime, he was a great target for them.
And he's number 5. They
Right.
started to look for him. He's another. All of these receivers and their tight end are all over 6 foot. They're all big, physical guys. Humphreys, like you mentioned, can kind of get out and run a little bit, but they're not going to. They're probably not. They're really not going to wow you with their speed. But they, if you try and play bump and run coverage, they can get by you. They have, they'll use their hands. They use their size very, very well. And John Humphreys is no exception.
He's 6'5". He's 6'5", 209.
And that's always been the hallmark of
Right.
Stanford as well. Big physical receivers, tight ends that they can kind of pair with their big offensive line and talented running back to kind of just bully you all over the field. And John Humphreys, 13 receptions, 205 yards, and a touchdown on the year. And he's also the guy who drew the pass interference last drive that ultimately led to the untimed down and the fade to Higgins to send the game into overtime. And then the tight end, they'll use the tight end as well, as most Stanford teams do.
Right.
This is the place. This is the school that produced tight ends like Austin Hooper, Zach Ertz, to name a few, and Benjamin Urosek. Is a nice player, 9 receptions, 123 yards on the season. So they'll definitely use him. And with Tremaine likely down, they'll probably use the tight end even more.
And there's a backup. There's a number 2 tight end that will play, but they don't throw. He's more of a blocking guy, more of a decoy. But he's.
So, but all of this is going to run through Tanner McKee. He's just been a tremendous player with this and done the most with this opportunity that he's been given. I was very, very impressed by him. He's gutsy too. He took that targeting penalty. Thibodeau, Thibodeau from Oregon laid him out with a hit to the head, and McKee was down on the field there for a while, and then he comes back in.
Right.
And I mean, he goes and leads them to a victory. So, this kid is for real. Like I said, probably the best true passer the ASU defense will see all year. They're definitely going to need to get after him and hopefully force him into some mistakes. And going up against these big physical receivers, the secondary is going to need to be on point as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching their game against UCLA. They lost 35-24. And that's where he really, in a loss, he caught my eye, really. Just as far as the quality of balls he was throwing. UCLA out-athleted him, just as we should be out-athleting as Stanford. And we'll talk more about that as we get into the defense here in a second.
Yeah.
But we out-athleted BYU, and BYU beat us. So it doesn't get down to who.
Oregon should have out-athleted Stanford.
That's correct.
Yep. Yeah, that doesn't mean a whole lot in this game. When you got a team like this that can beat you a few different ways. I mean, they're not gonna, it's not like UCLA. They're not gonna beat you with a lot of misdirection, a lot of
trickery.
Try to give you dirty eyes. They're a team that's gonna run it down your throat, but now they have an added wrinkle like the Stanford teams of old. They'll try to beat you on the ground, but watch out for that passing attack because it has really been prevalent this year. That's kind of become their go-to, the go-to part of this offense. Tanner McKee airing it out to these big physical wide receivers.
And what I noticed in watching them, a couple of their games here again, rewatching them, is they like to throw into the seams.
Yes.
Either tight end or to Humphreys. If going back to this Oregon game, they got in, so that they got behind the DB, the corner, and before the safety, and it works. And they run a number of plays. They run a deep slant. They run little outs, but they run everything in that seam just to give you fits as to whose man it is to pick up. So
definitely got to be on point with the zone. I think that's what ASU should probably run in a game, like this, especially on the passing downs, just so they have the throwing lanes covered and they can go attack when the ball's in the air. I think that's going to be their best way to go against an offense like this.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to the defense, again, the Stanford defense has struggled on the ground, defending the run game. Which is unusual for them. They've always been very strong in the trenches on both sides of the ball. This year, they've struggled against opposing rushing attacks. I mean, I thought they actually did a really good job against Oregon. Oregon put up 248 yards on the ground, but they did it on 54 carries, about 4 yards a carry, which is respectable. I mean, especially against an attack like that. So their rush defense was much stronger in that game against a very, very good running team, and their pass defense has been much more improved. You always thought you could, if you weren't beat, if Stanford's going to shut you down on the ground, you can beat them through the air. No, they're not even giving up 200 yards a game through the air. So and they face some decent throwing teams. They beat USC. They haven't really, I don't know, this might be one of the better passing attacks they're going to see this year. I think, especially with the way that ASU was able to attack UCLA. I think they need, this is another game they need to, kind of focus on their passing game a little bit more, because Stanford looks like they might have figured some things out on the rush defense. And one of the reasons why their defense has been as good as it has been defensive lineman Gabe Reed. He's number 90. They'll line him up inside and outside. And one of the things that showed out to me in the Oregon game was the fact that he'll drop into coverage a lot. He's a great athlete. They'll move him into coverage and have him cover the flats and the underneath game and get him into the passing lanes. He had an interception against Oregon. Anthony Brown just didn't see him, dropping into coverage and basically threw it right to him.
Yeah.
And this is a big weapon to have on your defense when you have a defensive lineman that you can drop into coverage, and he's gonna go attack the ball in the air. He's having a nice year: 24 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a half sack. I mentioned the interception, and then also 2 pass deflections as well.
And nothing, as a defensive oriented kind of fan myself or observer, I love defense when they score and when they make big plays like that. I love seeing big linemen lumber down the field. And this kid's not lumber. He's actually pretty darn. He's a good athlete. He was motoring in that Oregon game.
Oh yeah, and he was all over the field. And the way he fills out the stat sheet, that he's a guy you got to know where he is on the field at all times. And then the linebackers, have been very strong for Stanford as well. Lonnie Damuni, 33 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack on the year. He's another guy who just will explode off the screen when you watch him on TV. He can do a lot of different things. He can drop into coverage. He can shoot the gaps. Does a lot of things really, really well. And he flashes on film. You can watch for him. Number 3. He's a very, very good player. And then their other linebacker, Ricky Miezon. This kid is another guy who just leapt off the screen. I watched him. He is a tremendous athlete. I mean, he's pretty easy to watch. He's a big guy. He's number 45. And he wears a neck roll, and he just explodes through the gap like a rocket when he gets after it. I mean, it's tough to get away from him. 29 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a half sack on the season. And then Stanford defensive backs haven't always been the best, but they have a couple in Kendall Williamson and Caillou Blue Kelly who have really played well this year. Kendall Williamson, I think, is more the boundary guy. He's a guy who's going to come into the box a little bit and do some different things. He's got 31 tackles and 3 pass deflections on the year. And Kelly, with his 2 interceptions, 1 that he took back for a touchdown, and 7 pass deflections. He's a ball hawk. He's a guy who's going to go up and get the ball if you put it up there for him. So, a lot to like about this defense. They got some playmakers out there.
Yeah, the Blue Kelly kid really has caught my eye too. Last couple games that I've watched.
And I mean, this isn't the Stanford defense that's going to kind of overwhelm you with their relentlessness and their tackling ability and their their attitude that they kind of had in the past. With guys like Shane Skov and Solomon Thomas, to name a few. They're a little more steady, but they still have some very, very good athletes and some guys that can go out there and make plays on a consistent basis. That's really what you're looking for. I mean, this is the thing that we got to remember about this Stanford team is there's been a lot of continuity in the coaching staff, which is rare in college football nowadays. David Shaw has been at Stanford now. I mean, he's a Stanford alum.
15 years.
He's been in the program 15 years. Lance Anderson, their defensive coordinator, has been there just as long.
Right.
Their offensive coordinator, Tavita Pritchard, was a former quarterback at Stanford, and he's there. This is his 9th season there.
Right.
He's worked his way up to OC and quarterbacks coach. So this is a very well coached team. Antonio Pierce called this team BYU all over again. BYU 2.0. I mean, this is a team that will, they're very disciplined. They're not going to beat themselves. They're big. They're physical. They can, and they're going to come right at you. They're going to get in your face. And this is not a team that you want to play around with. You don't necessarily have to start fast, but you don't want to beat yourself with a ton of penalties. Can't turn the ball over against this team. And now with the added wrinkle of being able to throw the ball, they can beat you.
They create turnovers, Ryan. I think they're minus. They're +4 for the year. So they're ball hawks. They would go out.
Well, yeah, and the fact that McKee hasn't thrown an interception all season.
Right.
They take good care of the ball. They don't commit a ton of penalties. And they you look at the end of the Oregon game with the way Oregon beat themselves. They just kind of let
offsides, illegal procedure.
Stanford never got outside themselves as a team. They didn't try to do too much. They just kind of let the game come to them and let Oregon kind of make the mistakes there at the end. And,
And
and people wonder why Herm likes to kind of milk the clock at the end of the game instead of going for the throat the way other college
mm,
coaches do. Watch that Oregon Stanford game. Last time Oregon had the ball in regulation, they did not execute at all. You just, when you try and do that, when you try and put a team away,
mhm.
the video game method, so to speak, you're just setting yourself up for failure. They had
Mhm.
terrible clock management. They didn't work the play clock down the way they were supposed to. They snapped it too early. They had multiple false start penalties, even
Yeah,
though there were about as many Oregon fans
there
in
was
Palo Alto as there were Stanford fans.
Palo Alto is not exactly known for making noise, folks.
Yeah,
It's a nice little stadium, but they don't show up. They're out in their motorhomes drinking wine. I'm sorry.
yeah, right.
No, it's
Yeah,
always been the rap on there. They're too busy. They're either the nerds are in the library or the alumni's out drinking
yeah.
wine in
They're
the
they're they're,
motorhome.
they're too busy creating the next useless app.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, but the Stanford student body, the student section was actually really nice
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that game. But then Oregon then turns around and throws the ball and basically saves Stanford a timeout, and then Stanford goes down and wins and ties the game at the end of regulation.
yeah.
So you go out there and you try against a team like this, and you try and just try to outclass them and try to out athlete them and not play disciplined, sound football. They're going to beat you.
Well,
And
what at the end of that game?
Oregon definitely made that mistake on Saturday.
Yeah, the Stanford's DBs at the end of the game in the overtime and leading up to the overtime played their butts off. They were balling out. Guys were leaving their feet to knock balls down, and I mean they all sold out. And
Yeah,
so it's
they,
not.
they definitely showed up at the
Yep,
end there, and
yep,
that's another hallmark of Stanford teams. They finish games very
yeah.
very well. They that goes back to coaching. They're very, very well coached, and they're not going to beat themselves. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot with penalties. So therefore, you can't. That's another thing that
Mhm.
that ASU's got to focus on. So that leads us into our keys to the game presented by XLLending.com. For all your mortgage needs, check out XLLending.com. And it starts with we mentioned Tanner McKee, how well he's played this year. You got to lock him down, lock down McKee, and you got to put pressure on him. Get into the backfield. This offensive line is solid. They don't have a ton of like blue chip prospects, blue chip offensive linemen like they've had in the past. So I think you can get to them. You put pressure and force mistakes against this kid. He's been so good this year, but that's not to say ASU can't pin their ears back and come after him. For the first time in probably since Southern Utah, they're not going to face a true dual threat quarterback. McKee's a guy who likes to sit in the pocket and pick apart a defense. He likes to have time. I think you absolutely have to blitz in this game if you're ASU. Get after the quarterback. Kind of sell out to force him into making mistakes. I think that's key in this game.
Well, and I'm going to tell you,
You're leaving the secondary on an island a little bit against these bigger physical receivers. I still think that's the biggest, but going to be the best way to get after this passing
yeah,
attack.
and both Matus and Michael Matus and Tyler Johnson really didn't have great games in terms from a production standpoint. Tyler was I think he's nursing. He's got a little owie, and so he played sparingly. But the real pressure and the real sacks came from Omar Lott, Cooper, Lambert, all kinds of great twos that were stepping up and increasing, putting on the pressure.
And they'll continue to rotate those guys in. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I think you also need you'd like to see the linebackers get after it a little bit.
Yeah.
And get after and get through those the A and B gaps and get after the quarterback that way. Maybe you start selling out and bring in some of the secondary guys around the edge. I think that's certainly something to consider.
If we get Evan Fields back, you bet.
Yeah, they are, and it looks like he will be back this week. He did miss the UCLA games. Well, it's going to be nice to see. And then my other key is to keep it simple, stupid. Make the basic easy plays against a team like this. Certain mistakes are going to be magnified so much more because they play such a disciplined, sound brand of football that you need to kind of follow suit and don't try to do too much. Keep to your assignments, and that doesn't just go for the players; that goes for the coaches too. Don't try to get too fancy with some of the stuff that you do, especially on special teams. That's what kind of leads to confusion from the players, leads them to being on the field when they shouldn't be, things like that are absolutely avoidable.
And you know,
if they can, if that's going to be, that kind of feeds into minimizing the penalties, minimizing the mental mistakes. Just keep it simple. Don't try to do too much. Keep
Right.
your assignments. Know what your assignment is, and stay home on plays. Just try to go out there, play your game, and don't try to get outside yourself. Against a team like this, that's going to be huge.
keeping it simple on offense is another way of looking at it. I thought, even though we had some nice long balls, and the fans always look at the long play, the long, that's great.
Those chunk plays are big.
They are, but what really made the difference in this game was our bubble screen game.
Yes.
We ran a really nice bubble screen game, and I could tell by the matchups that was going to be a big key in this game, was throwing bubble screens.
And it wasn't just a bubble screen to Pearsall either. I mean,
no, we mixed it up.
They run
White.
that running back screen with White, where he'll kind of flare out to the in like a pre-snap motion.
Right.
They'll throw it out. They love to start the game.
He's got good hands. Use it.
And it works very, very well.
Yeah.
And so that kind of feeds in the offense too. This is a Stanford defense that, while they're not, like I mentioned, the overwhelming, just get after it, full of blue chip players that the Stanford teams in the past have been, they're still very sound defensively. They're not going to fall. They're not going to fall for a lot of misdirection stuff. Maybe you don't run a trick play in this game, because this is a team that's not going to get fooled by that. They're going to keep to their assignments and not have dirty eyes, as Herm Edwards likes to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
I had a couple I threw in here. I think this is an opportunity to really pound the ball based on giving up almost 250 yards a game rushing.
We'll see with Stanford's rush defense
what they give us. Yeah.
I think that whether or not you can run the ball early may dictate how the offense plays and what you do offensively. As far as that goes, we'll see kind of how ASU is able to run the ball.
I think they're going to test it and run it, and they should. But I guess my point is, don't let yourself get in a third and unmanageable. Run good second down plays to get yourself in. Again, you're a big fan of this. Long sustained drives are the key to winning games in the pack,
and especially against a team like this that has kind of found an identity offensively.
Right.
Stanford has kind of discovered who they are as an offensive.
I want to keep that offense off the field, dude.
They're a passing team.
I want to keep that offense. Yeah, I want to keep our offense out there.
Yeah,
and long sustained drives, keep their offense off the field. I want to see third and manageable, and that all set up by a good second down call. So, and then obviously we really have a three-headed monster when it comes to a running game. And this may be a little light, 175 that we talked about this in the pre-show, 200 for sure. If we can run the ball for 200 and also throw for about 250, we win this game. We'll out athlete them from that.
I also said force 2 turnovers. I'd like to see that myself.
Yeah.
Force 2 turnovers, run for about 200, throw for 250. I think you're absolutely right. I think there's no way ASU doesn't win this game. I think there's too much talent. They're starting to find their form a little bit now, right, after kind of a rough start in some aspects to the beginning of the season. But I think now they're starting to get it going. And if you can do those things, there's no reason you can't win this game.
I see a dynamic happening where we're going to run a lot of twos and threes, because we're going to be down a man on the linebacking core. So you're going to see a lot
in the first half. Yes,
in the first half, and I think if they start growing complacent with that, and then Soli comes in, look out. That kid is just been, he was so focused in that game. He was so efficient, so ran such great lines. He was in them practically every tackle outside of the long balls and the balls that
Yeah,
Chase was running down. But yeah,
sure, Rick.
he actually runs out there where Chase is and goes and gets people. That's what's so impressive about his game. But yeah, I mean, we're
This is gonna, I mean, I think everybody's gonna need to bring their A game in a game like this. I mean, don't be fooled by Stanford's record. They're playing about as well as anybody in the Pac-12 right now.
oh
ASU needs to continue to win if they want to be there at the end of the season. So
with two teams so resilient the way they are, it's going to be a good game, folks. No one's going to give up.
no,
No, there's
definitely not.
Don't.
So,
It means stay in all four quarters and make a noise, folks.
Yeah,
Don't leave home early. Don't worry about the traffic. Okay.
yeah, tomorrow next it's Saturday tomorrow. You don't have to be up for church. So
Yes, that's right. So yeah, don't sweat it. In fact, go out
So
and
that'll do it for our keys to the game presented by XLLending.com. For any
Right.
more needs, check out XLLending.com. And now on to our score predictions. I picked UCLA last week. I freely admit that. Hey, I was the jinx. I was the jinx. I'm okay with that. But this week I am predicting the ASU comes away with a victory, 33-24. I think that the defense will show up in the second half once again. ASU might get down a little early against this team. But once they kind of make some adjustments as they've done all year, I think there's no reason to think they can't come back in the second half and put this game away late. So I'm saying 33-24 Sun Devils.
No, even though you had the wrong team last week, you did say something profound, and it became really evident. I thought by once the scoring was really kicking up in the second quarter, that was first team to 40 was going to win. You said that, and you were absolutely right. And it just happened to be
With those two teams with their offenses.
Yeah.
I think
you knew it.
That was a no-brainer. I mean, I was talking to people in the stands who had put money on the game, and they were taking the over. The over was 56.5.
Right.
And yeah, that was I think that's what it was. But yeah, that was kind of a no-brainer. So I think that's kind of the same deal here. Maybe I think the first team to 30 wins, because these are two teams that have some talent have some talented defense. UCLA, for as good as they are, their defense was a little lacking, I think.
Well, especially in the secondary.
Like one or two guys that can play in the league, where the rest are still trying to find their way in college football. But Stanford, I think, you got some guys. They hasn't really shown up on the stat sheet, but they really impressed me with their run defense against Oregon. And so I think, if I'm ASU, I'm watching that Oregon film very, very closely, just seeing what not as far as what not to do, and where you can kind of exploit Stanford. And I think that there is room there for them to have success.
The over/under is 51 on this game, and it turns out that's what I hit, but not by design. But it's I see us really getting after the quarterback. I think this is where the streak of no interceptions gets broken, and I do see. You're right. If we win the turnover battle by 2, it's and we run for 175 to 200, we pass for 250.
And I think this might be the best secondary Stanford has seen up to this point. Even
yes,
even better than USC's, even better than Oregon's. I think that this might be the best secondary they're going to see all year. Could be the best defense they've seen all year, even.
Certainly better than Yeah.
So we'll see what happens on Friday. I think that this is still a game that ASU, on paper, it looks like they should have it, especially with Stanford missing one of their best receivers in Bryson Tremaine. Definitely like to see them go out and get this victory again. I think they may struggle a little bit, especially coming off the short week, but I still think they'll be there at the end and be able to pull away for the victory. So that'll do it for us here on Running with the Devils. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we appreciate you guys coming on and listening to us and checking us out. And so, the Big John Caldwell on the Ron Nose. Trim those trees. Get out the Sun Devil Stadium on Friday. Wear maroon. It's the Maroon Monsoon. So forks up. Night. Go Devils.
Go Devils.